everyone, welcome to Joe's Drum Shop. I'm Joe, your drum teacher for today, and we're going to be doing some songs out of a book that is really cool. It's called the Fast Track Drum Method, and this is going to be called Drums 1 Songbook 1. The last episode that we did, we actually did the first two songs out of the book. We're going to be on the third song now, which is one of my favorite bands, the Beatles. So we're going to be doing the song called I Want to Hold Your Hand. And I'm going to be breaking down the song piece by piece, and then we will put it all together, and I will play along with the song, which you'll hear along with the accompaniment, and we'll get it going right now. So the first thing, I'm actually going to show you some ways of playing this the way the book shows, but then I'm going to also explain to you and show you the way Ringo actually did it, okay? So there's a couple little things that the book's not showing you because Ringo did it a certain way and it made it a little bit more intricate, which the book did not want to show you at that time. So they broke it down, made it a little easier for you to play. So the way this actually starts off is two snare drums. He's basically doing a fill, and the fill starts off like this. It's snare, snare, crash, and then it goes 3 times like that. So we're going to do that 3 times. I'll play that. Here's what it sounds like. All right, so that's basically the first line of the song. Again, the reason why he's doing that, he's doing a fill, and then it goes into a beat automatically to keep the beat going. So as he's doing the fill, the beat's still playing along. And it makes it so that, he's building with the song, and that's kind of the intro of the song. Now, as the song goes on, the beat will play like this. It's basically a little circled note above each hi-hat, which they want you to play a little more of a sizzle sound like this. Instead of tight, they want it a little bit more sizzly sounding, okay? So I'm going to play the beat for you. Very simple. It's just going to be this real slow down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I'm going to do that with the sizzle now. I'm going to open up the hi-hat just a little, and I'll play the beat again. You'll notice that as I play the hi-hat, I'm always kind of doing this motion. This is one of the things that Ringo, that was his trademark thing. Whenever he played hi-hat, he kind of shuffled the stick back and forth, almost like in a figure-8 pattern, to play a sizzly kind of a hi-hat sound, which kept it in very good time. It was actually a good way to keep time. Not a lot of drummers do that. A lot of drummers will play just straight on with the stick on the hi-hat like that, where he kind of did like a little bit of a swing kind of a feel to it. Because again, he was coming from a jazz background and a little bit of a rock background, so he kind of put the two together to make that kind of swing, kind of shuffly sound on the hi-hat. All right, so from then on, it plays that beat all the way through, so we'll go ahead and do that. The first fill that's going to come up, it's going to start off with a snare, 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 and then it's going to go to the first tom. Remember, when Ringo played back then, he only had a bass drum, a snare drum. This first tom, he didn't have the second tom, and he had a floor tom. So basically, he had 4 drums. So that's the way these fills are designed to do, that they're set up for a 4-piece kit. So when he would play, he would do the snare drum. It would sound like this. He'd go up to the first tom, and he would play, and then he would go to the floor tom and do the same rhythm, which is 2/16 with an 8th note. So again, all right, and then he plays out again through the same pattern that I just showed you. We go through it all, and we come up to the same fill. It's going to be another one of those same fills. Oops, sorry. And then it goes on from there, and it plays, again, the rhythm all the way through. Now, that's during the chorus. Now, when we get to the bridge, and that'll be coming up, we're actually going to switch the stick from the snare drum. We're going to go into a cross stick, which is a rim shot, but they call it a cross stick rim shot sound. So you're going to get this kind of a wood sound to the snare drum. And it kind of breaks down a little bit more softly in this section of the bridge. So as we play the hi-hat and the bass drum together, it'll sound like this. Okay, and it plays that. Now, as we go back to as it gets out of the bridge, it actually goes back to the kind of almost like the intro to the song. And instead of going snare, snare, crash like we did before, well, like this, and it builds up. We actually go into a different way of playing it. Instead of going snare, snare, crash, he does snare, tom, crash. So again, snare, tom, crash, snare, tom, crash, snare, tom, crash. And then after that, we go back to the verse again. We play that whole section one more time. We go to the bridge one more time. And then after the bridge, we keep going, and we actually end out with the last fill. And the last fill is like a little bit, the first half is a little different. The first half of it's like the last half of the last fill. So we're going to play that. It'll sound like, okay. And then the rest of it plays the beat, and then it's the end of the song. So it kind of builds up, and then it comes into the beat. And then right here, it's going to play a snare drum, and then a crash. Now, let's go over, because I'm going to play the parts that Ringo actually put in here. And instead of him doing, and again, this is just the fill area. So it's actually, I would say on the first page, which is page 8 of our book, the 1, 2, 3, the third line down, the last measure, when you're playing da 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 da, he does it like this. He actually plays flams on the snare drum, and then he goes up to the first tom, but the left hand's on the snare drum, the right hand's on the tom, and he plays, and then he plays that same thing on the floor tom. So the whole thing again is, that's the way he actually played it. Okay, that's the real way. Now again, the book felt it was a little bit more, too intricate, and so they did a little bit basic, a little more basic version of it. Okay. Then the second fill does the same thing just before going into the chorus. Again, he'll do the same thing. Now, when we get to the last page, instead of going, he does, okay? And then the very last thing at the end of the song, where it plays, okay, plays that last rhythm. Instead of playing it that way, the way he played it was he had the hi-hat, snare, and the bass going together, and they did this thing called a quarter note triplet. So it sounds like this. And it was a little harder to understand written out for the beginner student. That's why they opted to just kind of do a simpler. But it actually sounds really square. If you kind of feel it, it sounds better to go. So a little more hip kind of feel to it. All right, so that is pretty much the song in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and we'll play it and pull up the song here. And let's try her out. All right, here we go. Okay, well, as you can see, that's pretty much how the Beatles song is. I added a couple of little crashes that's not actually written there because that was something that he did, and I'm just kind of used to it in that spot. So, but the next song, this actually ends up on page 11, and again, we're in the fast track book called Drums 1, Songbook 1. And so on page 11, it's a song by Eric Clapton called Wonderful Tonight. And for a long time with the band I used to be in, for a long time, when I played it, I actually played the rhythm on the hi-hat with basically two sticks. And because the rhythm was pretty intricate. And then later on, I found out I was watching a video with it and actually realized that the drummer was playing with one hand. But like I said, you could play this with one hand or two, whatever is comfortable for you. I am going to play it the way the book shows, which is just one-handed. So the pattern is basically this hi-hat pattern is doing 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So as it keeps playing that, it's going to play it faster, so it's going to get this kind of a sound to it. A little faster. And you can see after a while playing that, it's going to be pretty tricky to keep that pattern with one hand, where it seems easier to play with two. So as the bass drum comes in now, the bass drum will come in on beat 1 and also on and of 4. So as you're playing it, the beat will come in on 1 with the bass, and it'll hit the snare drum on 3, and then it'll hit the bass drum on the and of 4. So you get this kind of a sound. Again, that's with two hands. Here's with one hand, like I'll be playing it. And you notice at the end of and of 4, it has the hi-hat opening. So you'll be playing 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. So it'll always be playing that pattern, okay? All right, and pretty much this is one of those songs where the pattern just keeps playing over and over and over again. There is a little bit of a kind of a fill, almost a real quick fill in between the beat, and it'll sound like this. The snare drum falls on the E of 2, and then it'll hit on the snare drum on 3, and it does that every so often. It ends up like maybe every, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 6 measures before it goes on to another one of those. Again, it's random, so it's one of those things that just happens. But I'll play the pattern for you. Now, the original pattern we had was right? And the pattern with the fill built into it sounds like this. And so that's pretty much that. Now, at the rest of the song it plays, it goes to a DSL coda. We come back to the fancy S, which is at the bottom of page 11. We go through it all. We end up doing ending 1, and then we come back again to ending 2. And then we go all the way out from there after that with the coda. So let's go ahead and we'll play this and we'll see how it goes. Let's try it out. Okay, and we're going to do one more song for this show, and that is going to be your song. Not my song, but your song. No. Actually, it's called Your Song. It's by Elton John. Very cool drum pattern on this. One of the things that we noticed about the last song with the Eric Clapton song, Wonderful Tonight, is that the pattern kept repeating over and over and over pretty much through the whole song. Now, on the Elton John song, Your Song actually plays different patterns. Each pattern is going to be different. So we're going to have to go through this whole song, individual patterns, and just kind of break everything down. So we're on page 15 of the book, The Fast Track. This is, again, Drums 1, Songbook 1, and we're on page 15. Now, the song actually starts off with the piano. And as it goes through, he does pretty much a verse and a chorus, and then it starts on the next verse. So we have to wait, actually, for the whole thing to go. Now, when I first start playing along with the song, I'm going to be sitting here for a while. We're going to actually wait for the song to come in, and it actually starts with basically 6 hi-hats. So it does 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then the beat starts. So here's the first beat. I'm going to play actually the line so you can kind of feel what it's like to play this. But again, every measure is going to switch. So here we go. So it's going to go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4. All right. Second line, we're going to start off with a double bass. It's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. Okay, and then still on page 15, the last line, it's going to kind of have that quarter note feel again with the hi-hat, and then the snare drum will play, and it'll have a little bit of a fill, and it goes back to the main actual beat again, which we kind of play a little bit here and there. So the last line sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Okay, so that is the first page. The second page, again, I'm going to play the first line of it. We're on page 16 now. And 16, again, we're playing quarter notes through the whole thing. Again, Nigel Olsson was the drummer of this, so when he played things very precise hits. There wasn't very fast motion with his drumming. It was very laid back and relaxed, and that's what this song is. It's very kind of a slow ballady kind of a song, and it just, the groove is in the pocket, very, very nice and easy going, okay? So the first line on page 16 is going to sound like this. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay, as you can see, it's a very basic beat. Very lot of space on this. It's not keeping 8 notes, you know. We're not playing 8 notes really fast. We're not doing like we did on the Eric Clapton song 1 and the 2 and the 3. You know, it's very, very simple, you know, quarter notes just on the hi-hat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's almost like a halftime feel, okay? It's a halftime feel. It's what a halftime feel is if I was playing a regular rock beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's normal playing. But a halftime feel is like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. You can see the difference. So again, this type of song called for that type of a beat. If we played a regular beat, it just wouldn't sound the same and it wouldn't have that effect on the song. Probably wouldn't have been a hit if it did that way, just by the drums, you know. So one of those things. Okay, so here we go. The first line again is 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. All right, the second line. Now we're going to be heading towards the first ending. So this song has a first ending and a second ending. The first ending has 2 measures, and then we have to go back to the beginning of the first page again on 15. So you'll see where that fancy double bar, double dot is, and of course the fancy little S above it. We're not going to be using that fancy S yet. That's going to come in later. That's called the DSL coda. That means look for that fancy S, and then we'll look to the coda. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So the second page, second page, second line sounds like this. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. That's the end of the first ending. We go back to the beginning. We play that whole section again on the first page. We come up to the second page again, and we play all the way up to where it says ending 1. Which is on the second line, the third measure. So we don't want to play that again, because if we do, we'd be in a big loop and we'd never end the song. So we want to go to ending 2, and you'll notice that on line 3 of page 16, it is on line 3, the very first measure, and it has a little 2 above it with the line connecting that measure there. So let's try that out. We're on the third line now, and that's going to be ending 2, and it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and up, and then goes to the ride cymbal. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay? Now, what Nigel Olsson likes to do is he'll switch cymbals very quickly. He'll play a ride cymbal on 1, and he'll go back and play the hi-hat. So let's do it that way, like the way Nigel Olsson would play it. So it's 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Again, that's the last measure on the third line. Okay, now we go on down to the fourth line. We're still kind of ending with this chorus part coming up. And it sounds like this. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of, again, quarter notes are going on, but again, the snare drum and bass drum is just all over the place. It's never on the same thing. Again, that's what keeps the beat interesting, and again, yet still, chugging along and keeping the pattern for the song going, okay? Now, we're on the last line of page 16, so let's give that a try out, and there's an end fill at the end of it, so let's try that out as well. Here it sounds like this. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a crash. I'm going to do that fill again, so let's try that one more time. I'll do it a little bit slower. The last measure on line 16, 1, 2, 3, and 40, and then we crash on the next page. Okay? All right, so now we're on to page 17. We're still finishing up on the chorus, and we're going to crash, and there's a little bit of space there. Again, these are all fills. So it's going to go crash on with the bass drum here. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we crash on the next line. Okay, so the second line on page 17, we're going to crash with the bass drum, and it'll sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Third line on 17. We're still crashing with the bass drum. Again, he's saying these little lines in between, and then he stops, and then the drums have to go along with them. So that's why I'm stopping as well. So the third line, again, crash with the bass. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And probably one of the most intricate little fills. I'm going to start off really slow with this. It's snare, tom, floor, snare, tom, and then back to snare tom floor again. Snare tom floor. Okay, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and. Okay, I'll play that one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and. One more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and. When I play this for students, a lot of students have a hard time with that fill. They have to see how it's, dealt out throughout the toms. It's not one of those fills where you just kind of da 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 and you're just done with it. It's kind of moving around. It comes back to certain things and it goes back around again. So it's a little more intricate. All right, so right at that point where we do that fill, we have to drop down because it says coda, so we're going to go to the coda. We're going to drop down to the last line and play that. Here's what that sounds like. 1, 2, ready, crash. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Again, stopping in between because of the line of the song, the words stop, and of course the music stops along with it, so again the drums have to stop. And then we're on the last page. We're going to play, this is on page 18, we're going to crash again on the quarter note with the bass drum. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, second line on page 18. Again, we're still doing the crashes because, again, those single lines are starting to play, and he says the words, and it stops, and so the drums have to stop along with it. So, again, here's the crash on with the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now this is the outro. We're going to play the outro, and it'll play the last two measures of line 2. And also, I'm going to play line 3, and let's watch how this plays together. So 1, 2, outro, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and crash. All right, and that's pretty much the song slowed down and kind of, we went through and analyzed every little pattern, every measure, so that you guys can figure this stuff out. Again, if you have any questions, again, I want you to always, feel free to drop me a line at joedrums1@comcast.net. Don't forget that as well. But let's go ahead and we'll play this song to its entirety. And the metronome marking on this is 126, and we'll play the whole song. Here we go. Verse 1. like to thank you guys for showing up and watching my drum show. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a line at joedrums1@comcast.net. Love to hear from you. Until then, you guys take care. Keep rocking. This is Joe signing off. We'll see you on the next show. Have a good one.